Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari. Soranandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Prabhu Jakacharya Astatya Shishimat. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananda Gaura Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Prem Sikha Host Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavandam Ki Jai, Shri Maya Purnavadam Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samavita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Chansana Book Distribution Ki Jai, Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai, Gau Premanande. All glorious some devotees, all glorious some devotees, all glorious to some devotees, all glorious to Shishi Guru and Sri Gauranga. I'm going to need a book. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 16, Text number 5. Bandhu Gyati Ari Madhyasta Mitrodhashina Vidvishaha Sarva Eva Hi Sarvisam Bhavanti Kramaso Mitaha Bandhu Ghyatjari Madhyasta Mitrodhashina Vidvisaha Sarva Eva Hi Sarvesang Bhavanti Kramaso Mitaha Bandhu Ghyatjari Madhyasta Mitrodhashina Vidvisaha Sarva Eva Hi Sarvesang Bhavanti Kramaso Mitaha Bandhu Ghyatjari Madhyasta Mitrodhashina Vidvisa Sarva eva hi sarvesam bhavanti kramaso mitaha. Bandhu, friends. Gyati, family members. Ari, enemies. Madhyastha, neutrals. Mitra, well-wishers. Udhasina, indifferent. Vidvasaha, or envious persons. Sarve, all. Eva, indeed. He, certainly. Sarvesam, of all. Bhavanti, become. Kramasa, gradually. Mitaha, of one another. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki. In this material world, now this is the soul that has now come back into his body, and he's speaking. It's pretty amazing. Amazing part of the Bhagavatam here. So this is his second verse. He started out in the last verse, Jiva Uvacha. So here he says, in this material world, which advances like a river that carries away the living entity, all people become friends, relatives, and enemies in due course of time. They also act neutrally, they mediate, they despise one another, and they act in many other relationships. Nonetheless, despite these various transactions, no one is permanently related. Purport. It is our practical experience in this material world that the same person who was one's friend today becomes one's enemy tomorrow. Our relationships as friends or enemies, family, men, or outsiders are actually the results of our different dealings. Chittaketu Maharaj was lamenting for his son, who was now dead, but he could have considered this situation otherwise. Quote, this living entity, quote, unquote, he could have thought was my enemy in my last life, and now, having appeared as my son, he is prematurely leaving just to give me pain and agony. Wow. Why should he not consider his dead son his former enemy instead of lamenting, being jubilant because of an enemy's death? He could have, interesting. He could have been jubilant because now my enemy is dead. Interesting. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 327, Prakriti Krimanani Gunani Karmani Sarvasa. Factually, everything is happening because of our association with the modes of material nature. Therefore, one who is my friend today in association with a mode of goodness may be my enemy tomorrow in association with the modes of passion and ignorance. As the modes of material nature work in illusion, we accept others as friends, enemies, sons, or fathers in terms of the reactions of different dealings under different conditions. Om Ajnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshum Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Krutavachalang Pangunlang Hayate Grim Yatkripa Tadaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinadaranam Vanchakalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Prabhupada mentions that in family life there are many enemies. 4. If one has a beautiful wife, she's an enemy. Who would think? Everybody wants to have a beautiful wife, yeah. At least all the males. Actually, nowadays, some females also want to. That's also there. Now, why? Why is that? Because a man becomes completely enamored, intoxicated by a beautiful wife, becomes very attached. And also there's the fear that someone else might take her away, which also happens quite a bit. To have a mother that marries twice is an enemy of the son. To have a son that's a fool and a rascal. And the last one, who knows the last one? The last one is the father that dies in debt. Previously, it was that if the father dies in debt, then the son, he had to pay the debt. It's not here, not in America. If the father has a debt, that's it. But in India, I think is it a law in India? It's common courtesy that if the father dies in debt, then the son has to resolve that. He has to take care of that debt. So, and Prabhupada also tells of two sons of a father who were having some argument. You know, in the beginning of their life, I'm sure they were nice and friendly, but they got in this argument. And they were arguing, and it got physical, to the point where one of them killed the other. So then went to court, and the other one, he should be also put to death. But the father was there and said to the judge, "Judge, I had two sons. Now I only have one. Please, let him live." And the judge had some sympathy, so he let him live. But of course, he spent the rest of his life in jail, so not a very good way to live. So such is the material world, you know. Brothers, friends, they may be friends one day, but the next day it could be enemies. Prabhupada says in Vrindavan Bhajan, he says, I have my grandchildren, I have children, I had my wife. Now it's just a list of names. Yeah. Where are my relatives now? Yeah. So now I sit in Vrindavan and I laugh. And now I laugh, sit in Vrindavan and laugh. But then he goes on to say, but Everyone is my real family member. My brothers, everyone is part of Krishna on the spiritual platform. We're all relatives because we're all part of Krishna. Krishna is He's our Supreme Father. So this is the position of Krishna, and this is our position. We're all brothers and sisters on the spiritual platform. So therefore, when we go out and preach, sometimes I give seminars on book distribution, and I tell people, devotees, that when you're distributing books, you should approach people as though this is my relative, my old long lost relative, and approach them like that. And this is a reality. We all have the same Father, the best Father, Krishna. So this is an interesting pastime here in the Bhagavatam of this jiva leaving his body and coming back. Sometimes when we're distributing books, Christians will challenge, well, do you know of anybody else dying and coming back to life, resurrected? Well, yes, we do. There's Harshasoka right here. He died. He was gone. But by Narada Muni's very mystic ability, he was able to, I think it was Narada Muni, right? He was able to bring him back. Amazing. Almost godlike ability. He brought him back to life. And here the jiva's speaking. And there's another instance of Srivas Thakur. Lord Chaitanya was performing his Nam Sankirtan in the house of Srivas Thakur, and many of his intimate devotees were there. And they were having kirtan and ecstatic. And we can imagine being in kirtan with Lord Chaitanya. My God, how ecstatic that must have been. So there was one of his sons was ill and left his body during the kirtan. And Srivas Thakur, he came to know of it, and he went and he told the ladies, don't cry. Don't make a big scene. I don't want Lord Chaitanya to stop his kirtan. So they restrained themselves, as much as they could, and the kirtan continued. And then after some hours, the kirtan ended, and Lord Chaitanya could understand that there was some mishap here. And he spoke to Srivas Thakur, something has happened, something has occurred here. What? My son, he's left his body. And Lord Chaitanya, he was so touched by the sincerity of Srivas Thakur, because he knew that, that he had left many hours earlier, but he didn't want the kirtan to stop. So the kirtan continued. So then Lord Chaitanya went to the son who had left his body and said, why have you left the home of Srivas Thakur? And then he came back to life. He said to Lord Chaitanya, I'm moving according to your order. I was here for some period of time, and now by your guidance, by your arrangement, now I'm going on to another destiny. I've had so many mothers, so many fathers. So similar to what we're hearing here. So ourselves also, we've had so many mothers, so many fathers. And in this lifetime we become attached to our mother, to our father, to our siblings. But how many siblings have we had? So many. So many mothers, so many fathers. But now we're finding out the reality that we're all part of Krishna. Krishna is our Father, Father of everyone. So this is the position of the soul. Now this is for many people this would be difficult to understand, to accept that someone has died and some saintly person brought him back to life and he's speaking. this would be, for many people, this would be unacceptable. But Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Ascharya pasati kaschideda, ascharya varita taivachanya, ascharya chanya anyashunoti, shrutnatna vaina, and the kaiva kaschid. A little sloppy there, but Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that many look on the soul as amazing. Some describe the soul as amazing. Some hear of the soul as amazing. And some, even after hearing about the soul, can't understand it at all. So the soul is amazing. It's like Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvagata means the soul is everywhere. Just like there's one soul in our body, that's who we are. Right? That's our identity. We're the soul. We're part of Krishna. And because that one soul is in this body, we're able to move about and speak and do so many things. But within this body, there's a lot more souls. How many? In each cell, in each atom, like millions of souls in our body. It's like amazing. Sarvagata, even in fire. Sarvagata means there's souls everywhere, in fire also. Just like we have this body here, we're able to live in the air, but there's bodies that are living in the ocean. We can't live in the ocean. Yeah. It'd be impossible. So there's living entities that are also living in the fire. Inconceivable. But it's also inconceivable. How could they live in the water? Yeah. So there's souls everywhere. There's a lot of souls. Unlimited souls. And this is just 1/4 of the creation of Krishna. 3/4 is in the spiritual world. There's a lot of souls. Unlimited souls. So the goal of the human form of life is for the soul to become pure again. And that's a big challenge. Because we've been in the material world in illusion for a long time. And now we're trying to become pure. Tamasima jyotirgama. Come out of the darkness and go to the light. The material world, it's a dark place. So much ignorance. Yeah. So the light is Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, when one is enlightened with knowledge by which ignorance is destroyed, that knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So this knowledge that we're receiving in the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, this enlightens us, and it helps us come out of the darkness of this world. So it's a great opportunity, and it's such a great opportunity that we also want to share it with others, because people don't know. They don't know. People don't know that. So many people don't know that I'm the soul. It's the basic. You know, I'm the soul. I'm not this body. I was speaking to one person on book distribution many years ago, and I said to him, "You're actually the soul within the body. You're not this body." He said, "Oh, yes, I am." Don't tell me I'm not this body. This is me. Couldn't go any further with it. Like, stuck. Yeah. So people aren't getting this knowledge. No education. Just like if you go to a nursery, there's many plants in the nursery. There's trees And the idea is that people go and they buy the tree. It's in a little planter there, and they go and they plant it in their yard, and it grows. But sometimes the tree isn't sold, and it's stuck in this pot. And what happens is, they're being watered, and the roots are just going against the pot. They're stunted, so it doesn't grow properly. So similarly, naturally, we want to grow spiritually because we're spirit souls. We're not this body. So we naturally want to learn about God and devotional service and how to advance in spiritual life. But because we're not getting this knowledge throughout the world, people aren't getting this knowledge. They're stunted. They're stunted. They can't grow. And therefore, so many major problems in the world. Psychological problems, and stress is this biggest disease on the planet now, stress. Because it's kunta. Kunta, it's a place of anxiety. Because people aren't aware of who they are. But when you become a devotee, you take the Krishna consciousness, then Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. You advance, you grow spiritually. Like we naturally, just like a tree, naturally, if it's in the ground, you take that tree out of the pot, you put it in the ground, naturally it grows and leaves, and it flourishes. So similarly, when we take up Krishna consciousness nicely, then we flourish spiritually. Divine qualities of Krishna also manifest in the devotee. So this is the result of Krishna consciousness. And it's a nice result. This is the satisfaction of the soul is when we grow spiritually. We want to serve Krishna. We want to think of Krishna. And actually Prabhupada says in one purport that we should be servants of circumstances. Whatever circumstance we find ourselves in, we should be servants of that particular circumstance. We don't know what we're going to be put in. Just like yesterday, this person, I was distributing books, and this person, he comes by and he's completely harassing me, breaking up sales, and his very loud voice. And I thought, well, this is a circumstance in which I have to be tolerant. I tolerate it. And eventually he went away. So there's certain circumstances that we have to live in which we have to be tolerant, and other circumstances where we have to serve the deities, or we distribute books, or we clean, or there's so many circumstances that we find ourselves in. Prabhupada said, do the needful. Do the needful. So many things have to be done. And Prabhupada, he said, my great fear, he said, I have one fear, and that is after I leave, you will think, oh, Swami has left us with such a burden, taking care of the deities. So he said, this is my fear. And there's one temple where all the devotees left the temple for 2 weeks. Just the deities there. Everybody left. Kind of scary, huh? And this is just a short time after Prabhupada left. So therefore we have to preach so people keep coming. So today is Hara Panchami. Hara Panchami means the 5 days after Lord Chaitanya, or there was Rath Yatra, Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra. So I wanted to read that. It's pretty sweet. This is from the Madhya Lila, chapter 14, text number 106. This is a sweet pastime. The chapter of this is performance of the Vrindavan pastimes. Amazing, wonderful pastimes. So this is a translation to 106. Knowing that the Hera Panchami festival was drawing near, King Prataparudra attentively talked with Kasimishra. Tomorrow will be the function of Hera Panchami, or Lakshmi Vijaya. Lakshmi Vijaya means the victory of Lakshmi. Hold this festival in such a way that it has never been held before. Purport. The Hera Panchami festival takes place 5 days after the Rath Yatra festival. Lord Jagannath has left his wife, the goddess of fortune, and gone to Vrindavan, which is the Gundicha temple. Due to separation from the Lord, the goddess of fortune decides to come to see the Lord at Gundicha. The coming of the goddess of fortune to Gundicha is celebrated as Hera Panchami. Sometimes this is misspelled as Hara Panchami among the Ativadis. The word Hera means to see and refers to the goddess of fortune going to see Lord Jagannath. The word Panchami means the 5th day and is used because this takes place on the 5th day of the moon. King Prataparudra said, "Hold this festival in such a gorgeous way that upon seeing it, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be completely pleased and astonished. Take as many printed cloths, small bells, umbrellas, and chamras as there are in my storehouse and in the deity storehouse." So printed cloths, in other words, it's very colorful. Yeah. Collect all kinds of small and large flags and ringing bells. Then decorate the carrier and have various musical and dancing parties accompany it. In this way, decorate the carrier attractively. You should also double the quantity of prasadam. Make so much that it will even surpass the Rath Yatra festival. Arrange the festival in such a way that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may freely go with his devotees to visit the deity without difficulty. In the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his come in, it's okay. In the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his personal associates with him to see Lord Jagannath at Sundarachala. Purport. Sundarachala is the Gundicha temple. The temple of Jagannath at Jagannath Puri is called Nilachala, and the temple at Gundicha is called Sundarachala. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal devotees returned to Nilachala with great eagerness to see the Hera Panchami festival. Kasimishra was his bodyguard, kind of. He would move people to the side, to let Lord Chaitanya come through. It must have been very strong, powerful. Kasimishra received Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great respect and taken the Lord and his associates to a very nice place. He had them seated. After taking his seat, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to hear about a particular mellow of devotional service. Therefore, mildly smiling, he began to question Swarup Damodar. Although Lord Jagannath enjoys his pastimes at Dwarka Dham and naturally manifests sublime liberality there, still, once a year, he becomes unlimitedly eager to see Vrindavan. Pointing out the neighboring gardens, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "All these gardens exactly resemble Vrindavan. Therefore, Lord Jagannath is very eager to see them again." Externally, he gives the excuse that he wants to participate in the Rath Yatra festival, but actually, he wants to leave Jagannath Puri to go to Sundarachala, the Gundicha temple, a replica of Vrindavan. The Lord enjoys his pastimes day and night in various flower gardens there. But why does he not take Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, with him? Swarup Damodar replied, "My dear Lord, please hear the reason for this. Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, cannot be admitted in the pastimes of Vrindavan. In the pastimes of Vrindavan, the only assistants are the gopis. But for the gopis, no one can attract the mind of Krishna. Does anybody know why Lakshmi can't enter into Vrindavan? Besides Dravida? Go ahead, Dravida.
Because she wants to keep the form of Lakshmi and it's incompatible with.
She wants to keep her opulence. Yeah. The Lord said, using the car festival as an excuse, Krishna goes there with Subhadra and Baladev. All the pastimes with the gopis that take place in those gardens are very confidential ecstasies of Lord Krishna. No one knows them. Since there is no fault at all in Krishna's pastimes, why does the goddess of fortune become angry? Swarup replied, it is the nature of a girl afflicted by love to become immediately angry upon finding any neglect on the part of her lover. While Swarup Damodar and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were talking, the procession of the goddess of fortune came by. She was riding upon a golden palanquin carried by 4 men and bedecked with a variety of jewels. The palanquin was also surrounded by people carrying umbrellas, chamara whisk, and flags, and it was preceded by musicians and dancing girls. The maidservants were carrying water pitchers, chamara whisk, and boxes for betel nuts. There were hundreds of maidservants, all attractively dressed and wearing valuable necklaces. In an angry mood, the goddess of fortune arrived at the main gate of the temple, accompanied by many members of her family, all of whom exhibited uncommon opulence. When the procession arrived, the maidservants of the goddess of fortune began to arrest all the principal servants of Lord Jagannath. The maidservants bound the servants of Jagannath, handcuffed them, and made them fall down at the lotus feet of the goddess of fortune. Indeed, they were arrested just like thieves who have all their riches taken away. Purport. When Lord Jagannath starts his car festival, he gives assurance to the goddess of fortune that he will return the next day. When he does not return, the goddess of fortune, after waiting 2 or 3 days, begins to feel that her husband has neglected her. She naturally becomes quite angry, gorgeously decorating herself and her associates. She comes out of the temple and stands before the main gate. All the principal servants of Lord Jagannath are then arrested by her maidservants, brought before her, and forced to fall down at her lotus feet. When the servants fell down before the lotus feet of the goddess of fortune, they almost fell unconscious. Of course, for those of you that are visiting, this is all play. It's nothing real serious, it's play. They were chastised and made the butt of jokes and loose language. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates saw such impudence exhibited by the maidservants of the goddess of fortune, they covered their faces with their hands and began to smile. It's a fun time, actually. Just dramatical fun. Swarup Damodar said, there is no egoistic pride like this within the 3 worlds. At least I have never seen it or heard it before. When a woman is neglected and disappointed out of egoistic pride, she gives up her ornaments and morosely sits down on the ground, marking lines on it with her nails. I have heard of this kind of pride in Satyabhama, Krishna's proudest queen, and I have also heard of it in the gopis of Vrindavan, who are the reservoirs of all transcendental mellows. But in the case of the goddess of fortune, I see a different kind of pride. She manifests her own opulences and even goes with her soldiers to attack her husband. Purport. After seeing the impudence of the goddess of fortune, Swarup Damodar Goswami wanted to inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the super excellence of the gopis' loving affairs. He therefore said, my Lord, I have never experienced anything like the behavior of the goddess of fortune. We sometimes see a beloved wife becoming proud of her position and then frustrated due to some neglect. She then and gives up caring for her appearance, accepts dirty clothes, and morosely sits on the ground and draws lines with her nails. We have heard of such egoistic pride in Satyabhama and the gopis of Vrindavan, but what we see in the goddess of fortune here at Jagannath Puri is completely different. She becomes very angry with her husband and attacks him with her great opulence. The translation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Please tell me of the varieties of egoistic pride manifest in Vrindavan." Sri Damodar replied, "The pride of the gopis is like a river flowing with hundreds of tributaries. The characteristics and modes of love are different in different women. Their jealous anger also takes on different varieties and qualities. It is not possible to give a complete statement about the different types of jealous anger manifest by the gopis, but a few principles may serve as an indication. There are three types." Okay, now he goes into a whole thing. I'm going to fast forward a little bit to finish up this Hera Panchami pastime. It's 203. That's where it begins again. At this time, Srivas Thakur smiled and told Sri Damodar, "My dear sir, please hear. Just see how opulent my goddess of fortune is. As far as Vrindavan's opulence is concerned, it consists of a few flowers and twigs, some minerals from the hills, a few peacock feathers, and the plant known as gunja." So he's playing here again. When Jagannath decided to see Vrindavan, he went there, and upon hearing this, the goddess of fortune experienced restlessness and jealousy. She wondered, why did Lord Jagannath give up so much opulence and go to Vrindavan? To make him a laughingstock, the goddess of fortune made arrangements for much decoration. Then the maidservants of the goddess of fortune said to the servants of Lord Jagannath, "Why did your Lord Jagannath abandon the great opulence of the goddess of fortune and, for the sake of a few leaves, fruits, and flowers, go see the flower garden of Srimati Radharani? Your master is so expert at everything, but why does he do such things? Now, bring your master before the goddess of fortune." In this way, all the maidservants of the goddess of fortune arrested the servants of Jagannath, bound them around the waist, and brought them before the goddess of fortune. When all the maidservants brought Lord Jagannath's servants before the lotus feet of the goddess of fortune, the Lord's servants were fined and forced to submit. All the maidservants began to beat the Rathayatra car with sticks, and they treated the servants of Lord Jagannath almost like thieves. Finally, all of Lord Jagannath's servants submitted to the goddess of fortune with folded hands, assuring her that they would bring Lord Jagannath before her the very next day. Being thus pacified, the goddess of fortune returned to her apartment. "Just see, my goddess of fortune is opulent beyond all description." Srivas Thakur continued to address Swarup Damodar. "Your gopis are engaged in boiling milk and churning yogurt, but my mistress, the goddess of fortune, sits on a throne made of jewels and gems." Srivas Thakur, who was enjoying the mood of Narada Muni, thus made jokes. Hearing him, all the personal servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to smile. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told Srivas Thakur, "My dear Srivas, your nature is exactly like that of Narada Muni. The Supreme Personality of Godhead's opulence is having a direct influence upon you." Swarup Damodar is a pure devotee of Vrindavan. He does not even know what opulence is, for he is simply absorbed in pure devotional service. Swarup Damodar then retorted, "My dear Srivas, please hear me with attention. You have forgotten the transcendental opulence of Vrindavan. The natural opulence of Vrindavan is just like an ocean. The opulence of Dwarka and Vaikuntha is not even to be compared to a drop. Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full of all opulences, and His complete opulences are exhibited only in Vrindavan Dham. Vrindavan Dham is made of transcendental touchstone. Its entire surface is the source of all valuable jewels, and the Chintamani stone is used to decorate the lotus feet of the maidservants of Vrindavan. Vrindavan is a natural forest of desire trees and creepers, and the inhabitants do not want anything but the fruits and flowers of those desire trees. In Vrindavan there are cows that fulfill all desires, kamadhenus, and their number is unlimited. They graze from forest to forest and deliver only milk. The people want nothing else. In Vrindavan, the natural speech of the people sounds like music, and their natural motion resembles a dance. In the spiritual world, everyone dances, no one walks. And no one talks, everybody sings. Can you imagine? Just like they used to have these musical movies where everybody's dancing and singing. The water in Vrindavan is nectar, and the Brahma Jyoti effulgence, which is full of transcendental bliss, is directly perceived there in its form. The gopis there are also goddesses of fortune, and they surpass the goddess of fortune who abides in Vaikuntha. In Vrindavan, Lord Krishna is always playing his transcendental flute, which is his dear companion. The damsels of Vrindavan, the gopis, are the damsels of Vrindavan, the gopis, are... Oh, okay. This is from the Brahma Samhita. The damsels of Vrindavan, the gopis, are super goddesses of fortune. The enjoyer in Vrindavan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The trees there are all wish-fulfilling trees, and the land is made of transcendental touchstone. The water is all nectar, the talking is singing, the walking is dancing, and the constant companion of Krishna is his flute. The effulgence of transcendental bliss is experienced everywhere. Therefore, Vrindavan Dham is the only relishable abode. So this chapter goes on. So that's pretty much the Hera Panchami festival. Pretty nice festival. Actually, it even gets. There's other places where it goes, where the goddesses, where the servants of the goddess of fortune, they're actually with sticks. They're beating the servants of Jagannath. You know, not seriously, but mildly. Is there any question or comment by anybody? Although it's a little late. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hera Panchami ki jai.